Hey, good morning, everyone. Joshua Severe Weather. Happy Monday to you. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to those who observe. I hope you all are having a wonderful week so far and had a great weekend. We've got some winter weather coming finally for some of us here in Northern Virginia, in the Mid-Atlantic region, and again across portions of New England. Big wave of cold air coming, taking its sweet time, but it is coming. And unfortunately, those of us in the deep south are dealing with some frozen precipitation, which is going to cause all kinds of issues here over the next 24 hours or so. As we take a look at our temperature map, you can see that parts of the southeast still are not participating in winter. That is gradually going to change over the next couple of days. A huge blast of cold air we've been advertising for a while because it's coming has made its way well down into Texas, Louisiana, into the Northeast. And this cold is going to continue to battle the warm air to the south and east of it. And it is a battle for certain, but we are going to gradually see this colder air dropping south and east, getting to pretty much everywhere except maybe Florida, far southeastern Georgia, and parts of the desert southwest. So this is a look at today's high temperature map. And as we look at tomorrow, you can see the cold air will be on the move, 30s down to the Gulf Coast, 40s in places like Raleigh, still close to 80 though in parts of Florida for tomorrow. Looking at Wednesday, that does start to drop off and we're down into the 50s in places like Tampa Bay, and we'll start to see some recovery here across parts of West Texas. Then Thursday, milder along the Gulf Coast, pretty warm across the Southwest. You can see the cold relaxes temporarily, but there's another push of it coming here late in the week and especially over the weekend, as we see many places on Saturday that remain below freezing throughout the entire day. So winter is coming, not quite as quickly as some of us might want, but it is certainly coming. And those of you in Florida probably live there for a reason, as you like to avoid that kind of cold. So here's a look at the the infrared satellite. And I'm going to highlight a few things for you guys here. We have an active southern jet here sending upper level and mid-level moisture up and over this colder air mass, which is advanced all the way down into the deep south here. And what that's doing is allowing us to see some enhanced lift. There's kind of a piece of energy that's moving through the Tennessee Valley this morning that is going to run up and over the colder air mass that's in place here across the mid-Atlantic region and into the Northeast. We're going to see low pressure that forms here off the Carolinas and tracks parallel to the coast. Now, looks like it's coming close enough to the coast to limit the amount of snow that falls on the immediate coast. We're talking eastern Long Island, southeastern Massachusetts, Nova Scotia, just a little bit too much warm air that's going to be in place right in this region and here. But you don't have to get too far away from the coast to see significant amounts of snow falling here later today into tonight. There's another piece of energy bringing some very cold weather and some snow into areas here of the Central Plains, High Plains. Don't have to worry about mixing there. It's brutally cold. And then another piece of energy that we're going to have to watch sliding down the west coast here in the next couple of days. That is set to move across the country later this week and bring another round of wintry weather. And this one looks a little more promising for parts of central and southern Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, even central and northern Ohio and western PA, in places that kind of been getting hit, or not getting hit, but getting missed from every single hit here to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. I'm hearing about it from those of you in Indiana and Ohio. Trust me, I'm aware. And this one may have a little bit of a chance to be a bit of a surprise here, as we could be dealing with some more significant amounts of snow. That would be Thursday night into early on Friday. You can see a very bright area of what looks like it's cloud cover. You kind of see these deeper colors in here, this entire region right here. For the most part, skies in here are clear. And this is just an extreme amount of cold in place on the ground. This is snowpack, and it is showing up on the infrared image as temperatures that are, believe it or not, 40 to 50 degrees Celsius negative here. So 40 to 60 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. You can see that here across Montana and Alberta. Just some brutal cold. We only get waves of cold like this every so often. So fortunately, this is not going to be looking like this in areas farther south and east, but certainly still very cold. So very impressive outbreak of cold weather coming. It's not shown here on this map from Pivotal Weather, but we have wind chill warnings, extreme cold warnings over a good chunk of the northern and central United States, probably about 30 to 40% of the country. Now, what'll catch your attention here is areas in the pink and purple down south, from south central Texas right on up into the northeast. And I do expect to see more of this here across New England as we get to later today. The areas in pink are winter storm warnings, and there's a big area of the south from East Texas right across Tennessee and into West Virginia that are under a winter storm warning, surrounded by a winter weather advisory across South Louisiana, a place that doesn't see it very often. Central and South Texas do have a winter storm warning here around Austin, Round Rock, and San Antonio for a threat for some ice here today. And we do have winter storm warnings in the Buffalo area, Erie County, New York, as well as off of Lake Ontario. I do think we're going to see more of these advisories and maybe even a warning at some point in here as this piece of energy moves up into New England. Out west, we've got winter storm warnings across the Colorado and Utah mountains, and we do have winter storm watches across parts of the interior northwest ahead of our next storm system. Take a look at this. 41 inches of snow has fallen so far in Derby, New York. This is about 30 miles southwest of Buffalo, right down the Lake Erie shore here. And a lot of places like Orchard Park have picked up over 20 inches of snow. Just a very intense amount of lake effect snow. The waters are still above freezing. The very cold air pours over it. What that does is it encourages the air to quickly rise and form these local bands of lake effect snow. They're not very wide, maybe 5 to 10 miles across, but they're very intense. We saw some lightning strikes here over the weekend in the Buffalo area, and we're going to see some more of that this morning before things tail off. You can see here, this is the NAM model, and it does show some sleet here in orange from East Texas across the Tennessee-Alabama border, snow in blue here, and then the pink colors indicate freezing rain. Now, I do think it's a little bit too warm aloft here in East Tennessee, Northwest Georgia, Northeast Alabama to see this much freezing rain. I think some of this is going to end up being sleet, maybe even a little bit of snow, but this is 10 a.m. this morning Eastern, 9 Central. And as the day wears on, you can see the area of snow advances into West Virginia, Western Virginia, places like Stanton, Harrisonburg, and Lexington, and eventually getting into the Capital District, the DMV here this afternoon, probably about 1 or 2 in the afternoon when that occurs. The snow continues to build north and eastward, and Philly to New York City will have snow falling this evening. Eventually, we see that lifting into southern New England around midnight. And then tomorrow morning, we're likely to see snow continuing. Now, we've got another piece of energy that'll bring some light snow into Illinois, Indiana, and Michigan. That is going to link up with this particular storm system. And I do expect that we're going to see much of the Northeast dealing with snow for tomorrow morning. There could be some school delays because of this as kids go back to school. There may be some areas where roadways are very difficult to travel on here. And it seems like the same places get it. That's the interior, north and west of 95. There is a reason for that. We're in an El Nino. We have the Atlantic Ocean that's still running a little bit milder than average. If you watched my winter forecast here a couple months ago, I did talk about this, how this would be a snowier, colder winter for a lot of us here in the Mid-South and the Northeast. However, the caveat is that there would still be some struggling with mixing here on the East Coast due to our predicted storm tracks. Just a little too close to the coast for this to be a nor'easter that brings heavy snow into places like Long Island, southeastern Mass, southern Rhode Island, Connecticut. So what happens here is we do see snow, and that's something we haven't seen much of, but there is somewhat of a push of some milder air from the ocean that actually lifts this area of wintry weather northward and allows for a changeover or a mix here at the coast here tomorrow morning, and then things winding down here by tomorrow evening as this storm system moves away. The next one, moving into the Pac Northwest here, it'll be warm enough for rain in Portland, where we saw significant snow earlier on in the weekend, rain in the Seattle area. So there is some warmer air returning to the Pacific Northwest, but the interior is going to get crushed with heavy amounts of snow here Tuesday night and into the day on Wednesday. Here's a closer look at the South. This is where most of our, I don't know if you want to call it exciting, but most of our significant weather is happening. And you can see we're going to see another burst of significant snow here around lunchtime today from near Memphis right on up into Northeast Tennessee. We're going to still see potentially some lighter amounts right here along and east of I-81. So a bit of a struggle to get it to snow heavily. I do think that does happen, but it may take a few more hours for that to happen. But even West Virginia, northern parts of Virginia, the DC area are likely to be blanketed in snow for the evening drive for those of you that do have to work here today. And that spreads up towards New York City and Philly here this evening around 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern time. We do have frozen precipitation, freezing rain affecting parts of southeast Texas, southwestern Louisiana, southwestern Mississippi. And by later this evening, we do see freezing rain potential in places like Lafayette, Baton Rouge, and Macomb, even Hammond over to Madisonville, Louisiana. This is pretty extreme for you because you're not used to seeing any kind of freezing precipitation. It happens, but when it does, it is obviously a major impact event. So the looking at Virginia here in East Tennessee, we see this lifting out here. There's kind of a pause in the activity, bit of a struggle here where it is cold enough for frozen precipitation, but the moisture is lifting out. So as we get later into the evening and especially overnight tonight, things are pretty much winding down. And we even see the potential tomorrow morning for some frozen precipitation in the I-95 corridor from Fairfax, Virginia, especially just east of Fairfax, through DC, places like Andrews Air Force Base, Fort Meade, right on up into Northeast Maryland, the Eastern Shore here, or Eastern Maryland, I should say, not the Eastern Shore, Northern and Central Delaware into the Philadelphia area. We could see the snow letting up and actually a period of light freezing rain or freezing drizzle tomorrow morning. That's actually going to cause more issues, in my opinion, than the snow itself. So tomorrow morning, you're definitely going to want to be on your toes for this. Obviously, if you run a company in this area, you may want to consider the potential for there being some major impacts with this, even though temperatures or even the precipitation's light, the temperatures are below freezing, and that's going to cause for some very icy roads. And I think we are going to see issues on the I-95 corridor, even though you're going to probably consider this to be not a major snowfall event once again. But there will be snow followed by that period of ice on top of it that just weighs it down, that makes it harder to remove. And in places that don't see a lot of snow, that could cause us to have kind of a skating rink effect here tomorrow morning. So be prepared for that. We do see the storm winding down in Tennessee and Kentucky tomorrow morning. East of the Appalachians here, once you get to like places like Asheville, east of Boone and Jefferson. This, unfortunately, it looks more favorable for snow at this time yesterday, but the models have corrected as we've come closer into range. And, you know, the Appalachians are putting up a huge wall here where if you're east of them, nothing's really going to happen. In fact, when you get south of places like Hanover County, Virginia, Farmville, Lynchburg, there's really going to be little to nothing coming out of this. This is mainly central and northern Virginia, western Virginia, central, middle, and eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, and the southern, say, 2/3 of West Virginia that really cash in, and southern and central PA. The Turnpike will have snow as well. Looking down across the southeast, we actually see an area of rain coming out of the Northeast Gulf. Wet weather tonight across northern and central Florida, and even up the east coast of the Carolinas, we could see a little rain with the colder air to follow here tomorrow night. And models have been teasing me in Raleigh of the potential for a little bit of snow Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. We may see a flake, but honestly, this is going to be another mark safe from winter weather prediction, in my opinion, here. But we could see a few flurries falling here Tuesday night, early Wednesday morning. Maybe something tries to coat the ground here in eastern North Carolina. But this second piece of energy continues to kind of trend farther offshore. So I don't really think it's going to be favorable for winter weather. Believe it or not, we're pretty quiet here on Wednesday. I'm going to talk about what's to come, though. There is another storm system on the way. Here's a look at the Northeast, and I want to speed things up here for you guys. Two bands of lake effect lifting north. City of Buffalo dealing with some snow this morning. Watertown dealing with some snow. But overall, this band is going to kind of get disrupted by our storm and our wave of low pressure that comes up here into the mid-Atlantic region here this evening. We're going to see snow overspreading New England from south to north, southwest to northeast as we get on through later on this evening and especially overnight tonight. Then snow spreads into Nova Scotia, Maine, northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire in the morning tomorrow, heaviest during the midday and afternoon hours in places like New Brunswick. And then you can see it goes over to a mix and then rain across down eastern Maine, southern New Brunswick, heavy rain across Nova Scotia. Even Boston itself is going to see the potential for a little bit of mixing here tomorrow afternoon. So I think most of your snow today is north and west of Boston. And then this storm is going to exit. And guess what? We've got more lake effect hitting New York State here, hitting the Lake Huron area. I know I'm missing Michigan. I can show you that in a little bit. But we see more lake effect coming in here. So we can get the Bills game in this afternoon, but tomorrow night it comes right back in, and more inches to feet of snow is expected here off of both Lakes Erie and Ontario. And that band is going to go right into Buffalo, maybe Niagara Falls here Wednesday morning, as well as Watertown. This is actually crossing two lakes here, so it could produce some wild weather once again here, maybe even some Lake Champlain effect snow when we get into Wednesday morning. I did want to show you the Great Lakes here. Not ignoring you folks. I know all the excitement's in the Northeast, but A little bit of snow clipping through Illinois and Indiana tonight into early tomorrow morning. Brutally cold again in this area, but with the cloud cover coming in, I don't think it'll be as cold tonight. The winds do let up a little bit. Michigan, we're dealing with some more lake effect snow here, especially the northern part of Lake Michigan, Mackinac, whichever you want to call it. Getting a little bit of snow here, and then the UP of Michigan as well on the Keweenaw Peninsula. But the wind direction here is actually west-southwest to east-northeast, meaning the Thunder Bay area and then areas east of Lake Huron get a better shot rather than Michigan. So it's actually lifting things up into Canada due to the wind flow. Let's look at snow total forecast from the Nashville office: 2 to 3 inches in Nashville, 6 to 8 in Crossville, potentially a little bit more here in the Cumberland Highlands, the Cumberland Gap, even 1 to 2 in Clarksville, a little bit in Kentucky as well. Here's East Tennessee. We see 6 to 8 inches in La Follette, maybe potentially more than that, close to a foot somewhere here, southwest of 75. 6 to 8 inches in Knoxville, 4 to 6 in Athens, 2 to 3 in Cleveland and Soddy Daisy, as well as Chattanooga. And then over to the Tennessee border, or Tennessee, North Carolina border, we'll see potentially 4 or 5, maybe 6 inches, Gatlinburg, Sevierville, Pigeon Forge. But when you get south towards the border here, the potential for over 8 to maybe 10 inches of snow exists. Johnson City, going to be kind of tricky here. You're going to see some snow, but more off towards Kingsport, Bristol, Abingdon, and up to Wise here, potentially 8 inches of snow here, according to the Morristown office. Farther north, make this bigger for you guys. There we go. This is a Twitter gem. Generally 2 to 3 inches in East Kentucky, but when you get closer to the Virginia border, we have the potential for 6 to 8 inches falling. West Virginia, 3 to 6 from north to south. Speaking of southern West Virginia, 4 to 6 inches. Western Virginia, when you get east of the Blue Ridge, the numbers do drop off. South of Lynchburg and Roanoke, probably an inch or two. Martinsville, an inch. Danville, less than an inch. Blacksburg, Roanoke, the I-81 corridor, generally 2-3 inches. Same for Wytheville. When you get to the higher elevations and the tunnels here, you're going to see more falling. Across northern and central Virginia, 2 to 3 inches in Orange, Fredericksburg, 3 to 4 in Stanton, 3 to 4 in Winchester and Leesburg. DC, your office has lowered your totals. I saw yesterday they were predicting 4 to 5, now down to 2 to 3. Enough to where it will cause some issues, but not as much as maybe some of you were hoping for. But the hole is starting to get filled in the snow gap here. Northeast Maryland, 3 to 4 inches, and the potential in Western Maryland for 5 to 8 inches of snow falling. Same for Eastern West Virginia. Looking at the rest of West Virginia, mainly looking at Huntingdon and Tees Valley and Charleston here. Sorry for the resolution here, but typically speaking, Charleston right on the 6-inch line. When you get south and east, better chance for 8 inches. North and west, along the Ohio River, probably just a couple inches here in Parkersburg, kind of in the mid-Ohio Valley. And then southern Ohio, only going to see about an inch or so of snow. Oh, my goodness. Sorry about this. All right. Now into the Jersey folks and Philly folks. We're going to see some challenges here with snow totals, as there will be the potential for a milder layer of air to get in here and switch snow over to some frozen precipitation or even rain in South Jersey and Delaware. That's going to cut your totals down to only about an inch or two. North and west of 95, we see more. In the higher elevations, we see potentially 3 or 4 inches, but not a huge deal. But, you know, in South Jersey, we haven't really seen anything. So an inch or two will be kind of a big deal. Same goes for Eastern Long Island, typically about an inch or so of snow. New York City, though, 2 to 3 inches. This will be our first really significant snow, if you want to call 2 or 3 inches significant, in 2 winters. So enjoy it while you can, because it isn't going to be lasting us too long. By Tuesday, this moves out of here. When you get upstate, we're looking at a better chance of seeing 2 or 3 inches into southern New England as well. Here's Buffalo. I talked about the snow band that's going to be lifting north from Highmark Stadium. Should be out of here north of Buffalo by 11 a.m. And then another band as well here, dropping another 6 to 8 inches on areas northeast of Lake Ontario. Getting into southern New England, again, mixing is going to be a challenge from Boston and Providence on south and east. Right south and east of 95, not a shocker there. The North Shore could see a couple of inches. Central and Western Mass, 2 to 3 inches. Connecticut, typically speaking, 2 to 3 inches here. And then, oh my goodness. Northern New England, northern New York, typically 1 to 3 inches, highest amounts east of 87. Gray Maine did not give me a map. So if you're in Portland, I think you see a couple of inches. 3 to 4 here on down east Maine, but there will be mixing challenges. So this will be a heavy burst of snow tonight, tomorrow morning, mainly tomorrow morning before it switches back over. But yeah, we're going to see a few inches here as well. And let's look at the next system. Why don't we? Here's the GFS showing us our first piece of energy, bringing our moisture up into New England here tomorrow. That lifts out. The next piece is a little bit too late to make much happen here in the mid-Atlantic on Wednesday. But you can see the polar vortex here over Ontario going to bring us another piece of energy that drops down. And this is going to bring the coldest air of the season into the eastern United States for the weekend. This next piece of energy has a good chance at drawing another storm across the same areas, but may provide you with a little bit more action here in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois here by Thursday night and Friday morning, depending on where this sets up. And this is just one run of the GFS. So my projection is it could still change. We like to see this ridge in the west if we want to see winter weather in the east, but this is suppressed pretty far south. Our polar vortex in Maine, instead of around James Bay, does not provide us with a great chance of seeing a big East Coast storm over the weekend. So that has shifted since my video on Saturday. We see some snow across the Ohio Valley, maybe along the Pennsylvania Turnpike. Then it exits stage right here for the weekend, and then we just follow with colder weather and some lake effect snow. Here's what the GFS is depicting, and you can see this low pressure system is really suppressed here because the cold air is dropping so far south. If this vortex were further north, we would have more of an avenue for snow to go from coast to coast and hit the Northeast pretty hard. This is actually, though, having the potential to maybe overproduce in parts of the Ohio Valley and even St. Louis and southwestern parts of Missouri here on Thursday. And then that shifts east Thursday night into Friday and looks kind of like a swing and a miss for the Northeast. You can see snow here Friday and Friday night, but doesn't look as impressive as it did a few days ago. Now, I will say this. Those of you that understand how this drama works with the models, don't completely write this off at this point. There's still several number of hours between now and then where this forecast can certainly still change. But right now, that trend is not favorable for you in the Northeast to see a big storm system. So yes, I'm going back on my forecast from a couple days ago because we have new model data that indicates the storm track is going to be suppressed. And then as we head into next week, we are going to warm things back up, and places that are dealing with the blizzard the other day and the ridiculous cold and snow are actually looking at a threat for some rain here by the middle of next week. And you can see that on our temperature departure map. This is midweek, very cold, central and eastern US. Next wave comes down over the weekend, and then that's it. It gets wiped out by this time next week. And much of the country is back above average by the time we get to Tuesday and Wednesday. This is the January thaw we often see, but it is going to probably give us maybe I'd say about a week or so of milder than average temperatures. And then I do think we see some shifts coming again towards the end of the month, which I'm not going to get into today. The deep south, I've talked about the ice threat here. It's kind of a swing and a miss for Dallas, Fort Worth, but there's enough moisture for something in place. Here's the next system. Do be prepared for some snow again across northern Arkansas, southern Missouri here. Late Wednesday night, Thursday morning, some frozen precipitation possible on top of the snow that's on the ground in places like Little Rock and Oxford and Tupelo and Memphis, Tennessee, and then that swings out. So it's a pretty quick moving storm system. It doesn't get all the way down to the Gulf Coast, but you can see our model comparison of amounts of frozen precipitation with the European being the most robust today, tonight, and tomorrow morning. This is the Canadian. It's got more falling back in south central Texas, even to about the Houston area. And this, by the way, is the next system Thursday in Arkansas and into the Delta region and around Memphis. Here is the GFS model, two separate areas. This one, less impressed with Texas, more impressed with Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. This is all the way down to Interstate 10. The GFS says there's a chance for ice in New Orleans and Slidell, and I don't think it's going to be quite that cold, but I could see how it's getting close. And then our next potential for ice across Arkansas here on Thursday morning. Here's the NAM model, and it's even deeper with the ice all the way down to the Gulf Coast. We do need to watch this tonight. If the cold air ends up being a little bit stronger than predicted, then what's falling could certainly freeze to surfaces here close to New Orleans and Louisiana. And then here's a look at the blend. And of course, that's going to look a lot different because you take 6-7 different models, throw them all together, and you see some differences. Here is one of the Canadian models, a short-term one, and then here's the European again. Let's look at Texas real quick here. I'm going to make this pretty brief. Not a lot of freezing rain expected, but enough to cause some problems here. Taking a look at the deep south, this is where the bigger challenges fall here. And you can see most of this freezing rain is going to be right around daybreak tomorrow when pavement temperatures are at their coldest due to the fact that we, of course, have no sunlight to warm anything up. And there's definitely a threat for freezing rain in the Florida parishes of Louisiana, even close to New Orleans, over in the southern and eastern parts of Mississippi, Alabama, and then getting into places like Cartersville, Georgia, just south of Chattanooga, northeastern Alabama. Not a lot of freezing rain, but enough to cause problems here in this area. And you can see GFS tries to get it all the way down into the Florida. I don't know, but maybe Mobile, maybe even getting close to places like Enterprise, Dothan, and Columbus, Georgia here. So this is the first system. Here's the next one. You can see there'll be an area where both storms affect you across places like the north side of Birmingham up close to Huntsville, in Florence, Alabama, and then northwestern Georgia here with both systems. All right, let's take a look here real fast. This is Thursday's system. The GFS is not super impressed with what can happen here in the Ohio Valley, but it's very cold on the ground. And there's a possibility that there's a band that sets up near I-70 that overproduces here late Wednesday night into Thursday. So even though it doesn't look like much on the map, I see there being a pretty good ceiling here in parts of Indiana, Ohio. Somebody could get 6 inches of snow out of this. That's going to make you happy because I know you've been asking for it. I see your comments. But not a slam dunk yet at this point. Tennessee, you can see another significant snow, even East Tennessee. And we see this trying to sneak into the Piedmont of Virginia and North Carolina. I don't know what's going to happen out of it, but certainly something to watch. But even Western North Carolina, this doesn't look super impressive once you get outside of those higher elevations. Here's a look at the first storm system here. Here's a comparison of models. You can see East Tennessee up into West Virginia, Northern Virginia, generally speaking, 4 to 8 inches of snow. Some places get more. These are all of our models. There isn't a lot of adjustment here between them, but looking at the longer range system here, this is a 24-hour snowfall. It doesn't look super impressive right now. This is Thursday into early Friday, but generally speaking, there is the I-70 corridor, which is being depicted as likely seeing some snow, and the GFS shows us seeing a few more inches down here in the lower Tennessee Valley as well. Even the icon model shows that happening, and the UK Met shows it. The European, though, isn't as aggressive with the cold. It's the outlier. So I would trust more the Canadian here, the GFS, the icon, not so much the UK Met, but the some of these other global models here that do show that there's a decent chance of some of this snow falling. And by the way, there'll be a little bit more after that time frame that shifts into PA, northeastern Ohio, maybe 3, 4, even 6 inches of snow. Mountains of West Virginia down into Western North Carolina. Here's the Canadian model. Here's the GFS. Not as impressed. It's faster. Same with the icon. UK Met's looking pretty good with the lake effect. Not so good with our storm system. And back to the European here. And here's a look at the Northeast. And sorry about that. We can see how this next system clips through here pretty quickly Friday night or Thursday night into Friday morning. More like a clipper system. By the time the low pressure gets cranking here, you can see it's shifted south and east from a couple days ago. And this may be something for Eastern Virginia and the Delmarva. We'll have to see here Friday morning. Maybe we see some school closings on Friday, but again, this can change. As we get to the weekend, it's very cold. We see lake effect, but overall clearing skies, and we may see some record low temperatures across this area. Here's our storm system now, and we can see differences in the models, but typically the same area. The icon says 4 inches in Baltimore, 5 inches in Reading, PA, 4 inches in Westchester, New York, more up into New Hampshire. The NAM is really aggressive. I don't trust it. I think it's overdone, but it shows that. Here is one of the Canadian models. Here's the European, and generally speaking, pretty good amounts of snow falling here in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And here's a blend of what we're looking at here over the next week. And we can see West Virginia, Eastern Tennessee, Eastern Kentucky, and Western Virginia all doing pretty well. Southwest PA, Western Maryland doing pretty well. Northeast Ohio doing pretty well. And then this is just the blend right now, but it's not super aggressive at this point from Missouri over into Southwest Ohio. But again, come back here in a couple of days. I do think this is going to change a little bit more. Here's a look at the Northeast blend of the models. And obviously the lake bands are going to produce incredible amounts of snow. The Northeast is all going to see snow. The question mark is going to be closer to the coast, how much of it before a shift. And then do we get that second piece Thursday night and Friday? And the answer is some of everything, I think. So this is what we're seeing now for this blend of models. And Looking at Florida here, we're going to continue to be wet over the next several days. Heavy rain near and north of I-4 this afternoon. The playoff game in Tampa could get wet. I think the worst stays north of you, but we may have some showers and storms in the area, and there could be a delay because of that if there is lightning in the area. But we continue to see wet weather here tomorrow morning across the northern and central half of the state, or 2/3 of the state. And then that shifts south, and South Florida is going to see showers and storms here off and on here later tomorrow into tomorrow night. All right, folks. Well, I really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you for your time today. If you did enjoy this video, I just ask that you subscribe and maybe share it with a friend or two of yours if you could. I appreciate the word of mouth. It means so much to me. I thank you guys. You mean the world to me. But really, the only thing that truly means the world to me is the joy that I get from my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. As a Christian man, I give all the glory to God every day because this is my calling. Everybody has a calling. You can choose to believe in God or not. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to share my story because it's impactful. It's powerful to a lot of us. But just know that we serve a mighty God, whether or not we choose to believe in him. And Paul tells the church of Philippi, Philippians 2:9-11, that wherefore God also hath highly exalted him and given him a name which is above every name, that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow, of things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. And I've made it very clear in my videos what I choose to believe, but I know that this is the word of God. This is his commandment to us. He sent his Lord Jesus to die on the cross for us in human form and to return to heaven so that one day he can come again. And when Paul tells us that the name of Jesus should cause every knee to bow, not just in heaven and on earth, but things under the earth, that means that he rules over the enemy and over hell, and that every tongue should confess that Jesus is Lord, to the glory of God. So I just choose to confess that because I really think it's important. I know this is a science channel that talks about weather, but the weather is caused by different patterns on earth that the Lord has created. God has created the earth, and I think he put some of us here on earth to study that and to share and communicate what's going to happen. I truly believe that's my calling. So I wanted to share that good news with you today. And just know that I am happy to pray for you no matter what you're going through, or family members and friends of you may be going through as well, because I truly believe in the power of prayer. I believe that God put me here on earth to do this, to minister to you. And I believe that the more people that I can reach, the more people that God can fruitfully bless. And I want to be a part of that. So I hope you all have a wonderful Monday, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow morning. See you then. There's my hand. Whoops.